All right, everybody, and welcome to the online video body talk extravaganza. We have a series of videos lined up for you over the next few days. And don't worry, I'm going to be recording absolutely everything as we go. So you're not going to miss a thing for anybody who is relying on the replays or has to be at work during these times, etc. I am going to encourage you all to invite anybody else along the way. And if you think that you have somebody in mind who might benefit from hearing this material or is interested, please do share. And along the way, also, please make notes of any questions that you have. Make a little note, write it down, and send them in to me however you wish. You can get a hold of me on Facebook. You can send me an email, transformation@sastel.net. Or you can type it in the chat feature if you're here joining us live on Zoom. Just by moving your cursor down to the bottom of your screen, you'll see a little menu appear. And then it disappears when your cursor isn't there. So it's not always visible. Okay? All right, love. So let me start off without too much of a formal introduction because, well, that's what the first video in part does. But do know that my name is Allison Bachmeyer, and I've been working within body talk and energy work for about 15 years. And prior to that, my story involved getting a degree in anatomy, psychology, and even part of medical school. But I won't dive into all the juicy details of how the transition from medical school to body talk came to be, or for that matter, how I went from being a pretty strong skeptic. I really thought all of this type of work was complete snake oil and hooey and hogwash. And I thought there's no real validity to this stuff. And yet here I am. So how did that happen? Coming up very soon in the video. And what I can say for sure is I have zero regrets about doing the work that I have done over the years and taking the path that I've taken over the years. I have had tremendous success and joy, most notably in being able to share my passion in this way with y'all. And I'm really, really happy and grateful that I get to continue to share it with y'all in this way. In the early days, online streaming wasn't really much of a thing 15 years ago. And nowadays, our reach can be so much more powerful. So when I say, by all means, please do share this with anyone, that includes even afterwards. If you enjoy the recording and you want to pass it on to others and loved ones, know that I'm going to be making that available. Just stay tuned to that Facebook event page and it'll let you know where to go to catch all of the plays for everything. Okay. All right, everybody. So know that I'm joining you live for about a bit of it, and the majority of what you're going to be seeing is videos that have already been done, and that's serving two purposes. One, if somebody is brand new to Body Talk or curious about Body Talk and wants to learn more, this is one way that you get to do it. Two, I know that we have a lot of practitioners joining us, and well, if you are a new practitioner to this work, sometimes figuring out the words to use to explain it can be a little bit daunting. So in part, this work is also to benefit newer practitioners or even experienced practitioners if they're looking for another way to phrase things and to convey the message that they wish to let others know. So you're more than welcome to use these videos, to share them. You don't need my permission. You're welcome to point blank write down every single word I say and make them your own, or use them until you find your own spin on things. That's in part what this is here for. It's here to support everybody to the fullest capacity possible. So you may want to listen to it in a couple of goes. The first time you can listen to it just to simply receive it. And then if you're a practitioner, you may want to re-listen to it and go, okay, now how would I say that? Or how would I do that? Or how would I present that? And you can tweak it as you go. There might be some things that you love of what I'm doing, and there might be some things that necessarily don't quite fit with how your style is. And you can piece that together and make it for you. You can make it your own. Okay? All right, everybody. So without further ado, I want to get into the first video, and not to bring things down at all in any way, shape, or form. But I would like to actually dedicate this first bit to my cousin, who has recently passed. She's about 4 years older than me, and if she had had some of the benefit perhaps of the work and the work that I'd like to launch into, you'll hear more about that on Friday, she may not have passed and may not have come to that. And so my deepest thoughts are with my family today, because while she's actually being cremated today, the official funeral isn't until next week. But life threw me a bit of a curveball, and here we are. So I really want to celebrate my cousin Lori and her life in this way. So I'm going to dedicate it to her. All right, everybody. So stay tuned. We're going to get to that first video in just a moment. So hi everyone, welcome. My name is Allison Bachmeyer, and we're going to spend some time learning about Body Talk together for these next few days. So I'm really excited to share with you my Body Talk story. So how this began for me was actually back when I was in second year med school. I came down with a form of cancer called Hodgkin's disease. Now, if you had to get a cancer, this is on the top 5 list for sure. It's a good cancer to get, meaning it's very treatable, and chemotherapy and radiation get pretty good results. Having said that, it's still cancer, and I was in my early 20s, and I was pretty concerned about that. So I, in the middle of chemotherapy, started to come down with these migraine headaches, which I had had for years as a stressed out medical school student, and had treated very effectively with chiropractic and massage. But that had to happen pretty regularly to get any real results. So I mentioned this to my cancer doctors, and they said, no, you can't go for a massage. You can't go for chiro either. That's going to maybe spread the cancer along the lymph system, because Hodgkin's is a cancer that affects the lymph system. So that's actually really bad science, but that's another story. We can debate that later. What that meant, though, was in the middle of chemotherapy, when I had been feeling pretty miserable. So you know all those stereotypes that are out there in the movies and the books about chemo patients? They're all really true. So I couldn't go from climbing a flight of stairs from top to bottom without taking a break in the middle to rest. And I had formerly been a very active aerobics instructor. So there was certainly something there that had transpired that was pretty detrimental to my well-being in many ways. So I also had symptoms that were stirring up the stomach and the digestive system, and made eating really quite difficult. I had ulcers all the way throughout. It physically hurt to be touched. I had bone pain, and I had hair loss, but I just thinned. I didn't actually lose it all. I think that's because I took one look at the weight department and I said, no, thank you. I'm not going there. I'm not doing that. Mm-hmm. So here I was, pretty desperate, and then getting migraines on top of everything. So that wasn't working very well for me. So I decided to do something a little different, and I picked up a magazine called Whole Life. Have you guys heard of Whole Life here in Saskatchewan? Yes. No? I flipped through that, and it's basically Saskatchewan's alternative healthcare magazine. So we've got lots of copies off to the side. You're welcome to take a gander. And as I flipped through that, I found something called craniosacral massage. Now, I didn't really know what that was. It sounded good. Craniosacral, nowhere near the cancer areas. So I thought, let's do this. Let's give this lady a call. So I did. Now, she took 1 minute to hear my story, and she's interrupted me, and she said, no, I hear what you're saying. I know what you're here for, but this is not what you need. You need body talk. And I thought, who turns down business? Nobody turns down business. That's pretty wild. So I called up the body talk lady, and I kept that poor woman on the phone asking every skeptical question I could about body talk and energy medicine for about half an hour. Now, I was open-minded, especially considering I was coming from this medical Western science background. I had been doing massage and chiro, which even in those days was pretty revolutionary. And I decided that I would, go for this body talk experience simply because I was desperate. I really had nothing to lose at this point. So I show up my appointment, Now, she tells me to lay down on this massage table, and she goes silent for 45 minutes. She doesn't say a word. So here I am wondering what the heck is going on. At the end of it, she says, you're going to have some work done on your ovary. This is what we're working with today. We're going to do some cellular repair work, in fact, on your left ovary. And I thought, this lady's lost her mind. How on earth can this relate to what it is I've got going on? Well, as you find out later on in Body Talk, all the different body parts, they have a job or a consciousness, so to speak. So every single body part functions in a way to serve us. So what's the psychology of this? Now, imagine what the ovary does for a living. What does it do? Yeah, it produces hormones and eggs. And what do eggs give us? Life. Yeah. So perhaps the giving of life, that willpower to survive life, is actually pretty relevant to somebody going through cancer. Yeah, so it doesn't seem at first glance like this could be an issue that would be of any value. I really thought this lady was crazy because I wasn't even interested in having children, never mind having this be a priority for my body to address while I was feeling miserable through chemotherapy. When I found out later on that this was all about that will to survive, that made a lot more sense to me. Now, I didn't know that at the time, so I walked out thinking, I'm never coming back. This is not for me. Thank you, but no thank you. Now, something interesting happened. Over the next few days, I started to feel better. And I couldn't put my finger on what it was. I had done a whole lot of other natural therapies, everything from osteopathy to I worked with Chinese medicine to meditation to visualization. I did an awful lot. So I couldn't figure out really what was new. And when I look back and what I had tried different, it was Body Talk. And I thought, how on earth can that work? So I explained it as being a placebo effect. Now, placebo effects apparently only work if you aren't really aware of that fact that they're a placebo effect. But I ignored that fact altogether. And I called it a placebo effect, and I signed up for another session. Same thing happened. There was a lot of silence, and she didn't say much. At the end, she said a few things. None of it made any sense to me. And at the end of it, I felt better, and I couldn't figure out what that was all about. And it drove me absolutely crazy. I had a degree in anatomy. I had a degree in psychology, and here I was halfway through medical school, and yet some lady with a few days of training was tapping here, and getting these results that made me feel better in a way that I actually hadn't felt for years, really. So you know that sense of just well-being and vitality that you have, you know it when it's missing for sure. That had been lacking for me for quite some time. So this was a whole new, I don't actually know if I had actually really felt that in a way. So this was a whole new exploration of what really my body could feel like and how healthy I really could be. So I continued to go back for my placebo treatments, and they continued to work. And then I got really pissed off. I thought there's no way that this can work. I have all this understanding of the body and mind. How on earth is this possible? So I needed to have some rational, logical proof. So I said, okay, if I can get some actual proof that this is doing what I think it's doing, then I'm going to go study it. And I'm going to learn all about it, and I'll integrate it into my Western medicine practice. So I did. I got exactly what I asked for, in fact. I had a few things happen. Now, one was I was in the middle of having a discussion with my loved one, my boyfriend. I'm sure none of you have had discussions, right? Okay. So we were having this discussion about who should move for who. And I thought he should come to Saskatoon because that was where the only med school was. And he was a teacher up north, and I figured he could teach anywhere, right? Right? Mm-hmm. Yes, okay, good. I like that you're all on the same page with me. Yes. Very good validation. Well done. Okay. Yeah. So here I was thinking this, and very stubbornly so, and so in all of our discussions I wasn't listening. Now, right around the same time frame, I came down with a nasty ear infection. And I got them frequently. I made my living at the time by teaching swimming lessons. So I was in the pool a lot, and I had some left eardrum issues. So I got ear infections about every 3 months or so. This was a pretty normal event But antibiotics cleared it right up, except for this time. So 2 courses of antibiotics, 2 weeks of this nagging ear infection, and it wasn't going anywhere. So I show up for my body talk session. I mentioned this ear thing, and so that boggles my mind a lot. And yet, that day after the session, I went back home, had a nice discussion, not a discussion, with my loved one, and we decided that he would come here to South Africa for me. So that's pretty interesting. Even more interesting in 24 hours of that conversation, after listening and hearing each other's sides, my ear infection cleared up. So that's pretty fantastic. All right, so fast forward a few months, we move in together, and we've got this fabulous house. It is 2 blocks away from university. It's in a really great neighborhood. The only thing is we've got this upstairs, the people downstairs are playing, and they have a cat. They're not supposed to have a cat. And I'm allergic to all animals. Cats are the absolute worst for me at this time. So I go for a body talk session, and she lays me down at the table and thinks about not honoring my feminine.
Yeah.
Well, the Jerry asked for a Hicks book.
I listen to enough YouTubes.
Well, then we'll go through that box.
So she highlights these issues. I go over to my friend's house who has 6 cats. She was a bit of a cat lady at the time. She's moved on to having children. Don't worry, she's got a few kiddos running around. Maybe the problems transpired from cats to kids. I'm not quite sure, but everything seems okay for her so far.
Yeah.
So I'm infecting myself with cats. I'm petting the cat, I'm touching my face, I'm trying to elicit some sort of reaction. I don't get one single wheeze. I don't get one single hive. I'm not itching. I can breathe. There's no snot running down my face. I'm not sneezing. There's no congestion in my head or my sinuses anywhere.
Not the duck.
That was revolutionary. I went back home and I didn't have one single symptom from being around this cat. Yeah. So pretty astonishing that that went like that. Interesting. At the time, my mom had just gotten a dog, to which I was also allergic to. We lived in different cities, so I traveled home several weeks later, and I walked into this house, and I was no longer allergic to her dog. So the thing with body talk is it's a lot like throwing a stone into the pond. The ripples will continue long afterwards. Yeah. So not just the cat allergy got addressed, actually all of my animal allergies went with it. Allergies tend to travel in packs. When you get rid of one, you tend to get rid of a lot of them. So the horses, the cows, the seasonal allergies had all completely transformed. So here I was enjoying this new lovely space and healing from cancer, and the doctor sent me for blood work. So went off, I got my blood drawn, and it came back that my thyroid hormones were crazy off the charts high. They were so high they actually couldn't measure them anymore, meaning I was hypothyroid, meaning the function of the thyroid was kaput. Okay, so here I was, not necessarily understanding why that was until the doctor said, well, you had this area radiated as part of your treatment. So that's going to impact the health of that area forevermore. That's just the way it's going to be. You're going to be on a medication called Synthroid for the rest of your life. And I said, okay. And I went to get my prescription filled, and as it was getting filled, I happened to get a body talk session. Didn't mention anything about the thyroid because there was nothing that could be done. And 3 days later, I still haven't taken any medication yet. I go for more blood work. My family doctor wanted more blood work drawn, and she also redid the thyroid test. Well, the thyroid came back from off the charts immeasurable to completely normal. Now that's pretty amazing. Western science says for a change in the thyroid hormone values to occur, it takes 4 to 6 weeks. Okay, so the kind of change we're talking about could take months to stabilize. Okay? That was pretty phenomenal. So I'd clearly gotten my proof that it worked. It worked even when I didn't say what was going on, and it worked even when I didn't understand why it was working. Yeah, so I didn't have to be logically aware of what was happening for this to get really fantastic results. In fact, had I tried to analyze it and intellectualize it, the results probably wouldn't have been quite as good. So it got me out of my head and into my body for perhaps the first time really ever. So I got my proof. I went off to take a seminar, as I promised I would, and I took my Body Talk fundamentals in Kelowna, BC. Now, that was a long time ago, but I'll never forget walking out of that class and going, that's it, I'm done, I'm leaving medical school, and there's just no two bits, ands, or buts about it. I told my friends what I was going to do, and they said, look, write your very last set of finals, which was in 3 weeks. And I did, and then I actually even started my internship. So I was 3 weeks into my internship when I had a meltdown day. Have you guys ever had a meltdown day? And at the end of it, I realized that I was miserable doing what I was doing, and I wanted another way. And I didn't know exactly what that looked like, but I knew that Body Talk felt good, and this did not feel good. And it boiled down to simply that. I still didn't have any designs on becoming a Body Talk practitioner or becoming a Body Talk instructor. I just knew that I needed a break. So I went in to give my notice and said, that's it, I'm not returning, I'm done. And they said, look, take a year. You can use that year to take your time to heal and do what you need to do. I hadn't taken any time during chemo or radiation. I kept going through med school, through all of that. So I really did need a break. My body wasn't capable of standing on my feet for 80 hours a week, as well as studying for 30 hours on top of it in a fairly stressful environment. You know? So I took my break, I took my year off, and thank goodness. Some of them, you know? Which meant I flew all across North America to make that happen. So I really treated it like getting another degree. And I'm really glad that I invested it in that time frame, because it was really not so much about garnering the knowledge and getting another degree as it was self-healing. So I really took the courses a few times over. All for me. I still had no designs on becoming a practitioner for these first several months of training. Excuse me. So I decided through all my studies that, that I'm quite in love with this, and I really want to do a little bit more. And I continue to go on and become certified as a practitioner. And wouldn't you know it, but now I get to study quite a bit with Dr. John Belton, who's the founder of Body Talk. And he keeps saying, look, if you're passionate about Body Talk, if you really want to learn Body Talk well, then you've got to study its foundation, which is the life sciences. So that's breakthrough, mindscape, and freefall. So I did. I jumped into all of them, and I studied them passionately. And I actually went on to become a breakthrough instructor and a freefall instructor. So right now I'm actually retired from breakthrough teaching. So these days I'm teaching Body Talk, freefall, as well as practicing with Body Talk and breakthrough. This is what I do for a living these days. And if you told me that I would be doing this 10 years ago, I would have laughed a lot. I would have mocked the person I am today.
And so how many years have you been doing this?
So I've been doing this for over 12 years now, and I've been teaching for well over 10 now. So this has been a lifelong drive to get me here. I just didn't know that this is where I was going to be. I had no idea. But it's really the perfect intersection for me in terms of all of my loves. So I love to study everything from psychology to philosophy to quantum physics to anatomy. And this is like the intermarriage of all of those. I don't think anything else out there gets to play with all of those factors and wrap them up into one fun ball. It also means I get to work in a way that I never get bored, because every time I work with someone, it's completely new, it's completely different, and it's always an ongoing learning opportunity, which works well for me, because I have one of those minds that needs that kind of stimulation, and I quite enjoy learning. Lifelong scholar for sure. So really how that came about was at the end of my year, I gave my formal written notice saying that's it, I'm done, I'm not returning. And that very same week, I got accepted to become a instructor in body talk. So isn't that interesting? Yeah, life's little synchronicities work out pretty good that way. Okay. Hi, everyone. And we are back after the first video. So thank you for putting up with our little microphone hiccups and the sound hiccups. For some reason, the Zoom decided to just mute on occasion, but I think I figured out why. So thank you for your patience. All right, everybody. So give yourselves a slow, deep breath. And we're just about to dive into the second video. Now, if you have any questions, comments, or queries as we go, feel free to post them here on the chat feature, like I was saying, or if you prefer to message me on Facebook privately, you can also actually chat privately as well, or email, whatever your favorite medium is for communication. I am happy to work in that way with y'all. Okay, love. So without further ado, we are ready to get into that second video, because, well, it's almost time. It's almost 11:30. All right, loves. And on your end, if you're having any problems with experiencing, inability to hear sound, that sort of thing, you can definitely go to that mute area on the far left-hand side of your chat screen, and you'll be able to control different sounds there. So if you need to mute yourself, or if you need to check to see why it is you can hear me or can't hear me, or see me or can't see me, the answers are likely down in that little left-hand bar, or bottom of the screen bar, left-hand corner for the mute and the sounds. Okay. All right, gang. So next up, what you just heard was my body talk story, which I still think is the most wild ride I could ever have been on in this lifetime, to go from one extreme to the other of healthcare. And next up, we're talking about what is that missing piece in healthcare. So where are the answers? There's definitely lots of holes in all of the healthcare systems out there, period. I think really the answer comes where they play well together, but there's also some that just seem to work a little bit better than others because they have that missing piece. So let's explore and figure out what exactly that is. Bear with me, I'm just going to hit some share screen buttons again. What's the missing piece in our healthcare system? So why is it I was so stuck in this illness and my training wasn't quite enough to get me through it? What was the missing piece? So he went into his Mindscape workshop. This is how powerful Mindscape is. And he created an entire healthcare system, the body talk system. So in there, he devised techniques. He played around with it to see what was going to work in different cases, what will work well. And he created a system of healthcare that did not involve any level of diagnosis, that did not involve any level of prescribing, which is revolutionary. Because whether it's Western healthcare, alternative healthcare, natural healthcare, they all have some element of diagnosis in them. So just for fun, let's look at the word diagnosis. Now, di means, in Latin, any Latin buffs in the room, what does di mean? Di. Two, right. Yeah. And the word in Latin means no. Gnosis in Latin means knowledge, right? To know something. So put that all together. Diagnosis literally translates into two people who don't know. Isn't that fun? Yeah. So we thought, well, what if I could create a system that didn't rely on anything like that? What if I could create a system that would rely on consciousness? So that's what Body Talk is. It's whole healthcare. It's rooted in consciousness-based medicine. Okay? So what is consciousness? That's a really big question to unfold. So first, let's explore the history of the Body Talk system. So John opened up his doors, Dr. John Beltline, the founder of it all, and he in Florida saw on his first day 3 patients. Within a month, he had a 6-month waiting list. This worked so well, he didn't advertise because he didn't need to. His office was filled just through word of mouth and through referrals. So he decided, now this is working so well, I'm going to travel, I'm going to teach other people how to do it. And he came actually to Canada in 2000. He came to Saskatchewan actually a few years ago. He's been here twice now. But Body Talk preceded John's arrival. We had some other instructors come here first in 2002. And it's been here for, I guess 12 years now. And it continues to really expand quite rapidly. We're actually one of the Body Talk hubs in the world. Now, Body Talk is rapidly expanding throughout the world. We're in over 40 countries and we're in over 9 languages now, which is pretty substantial. So it's considered to be one of the fastest healthcare growing systems in the world right now. Hi everybody, and we're back. So ironically, the missing piece of healthcare isn't so much that it was missing as much as they're doing things that may not actually be so helpful. So there's a lot of systems out there that are primarily basing their work on diagnosing and prescribing. And we don't do that in Body Talk. It's really unique. So this system does involve us needing to label anything or prescribe a certain amount of, supplements, vitamins, medications, etc. It works with the energy of you, and it works to meet you where you're at. This is the most individualized form of healthcare I've ever seen. So if you like feeling seen and being heard around your healthcare needs, this just might be something that works well for you. Okay. All right, loves. So we have one more video. I'm going to actually get going on this one just a little bit early. And this is the What is Body Talk. We're going to dive into that. And then after that, that's all 3 videos for today before we dive into 3 more tomorrow. And I am more than welcoming all those questions. If you have any for today or for tomorrow, I will happily answer them then as well. Know that this isn't your only chance to ask now. I always freeze when someone asks, send me all your questions and I'll answer them. I go, and then as soon as the call ends, I have all these questions that come up over the next few days for me. So if you are like me in that regard, know that this is not your only chance. You have lots of opportunities to connect and get your questions answered. Okay, okay, loves, we're just going to go to share screen one more time, and we're going to get our 3rd video rocking and rolling here for you. What is Body Talk really? Let's explore. So Body Talk, plain and simple, is a healthcare system. And this healthcare system is based in what we were talking about earlier, consciousness. That's a different approach compared to most. So let's explore really what that means. According to the World Health Organization, if we were to look across all cultures and all traditions, they relied on, first and foremost, energy medicine as their system of healthcare. The only one that has not is this one. So healing was accomplished by moving energy in every single culture and in every single tradition, except for this one. Isn't that intriguing to you? Yeah. So we're missing something that's been around forever and a day. So why are we throwing the baby out with the bathwater? So why not embrace all forms of healing and knowledge that are available to us? That includes Western medicine, that includes Eastern medicine, and that includes everything in between. It's also interesting to note that according to the World Health Organization, between 2/3 and 3/4 of the population rely on alternative medicine as their primary system of healthcare. So even currently speaking, the majority of the world is relying on alternative medicine as their primary system of healthcare. Isn't that also really intriguing? Yeah. So if you were in China and you were getting treated for something, you wouldn't just get a Western medicine doctor, you would also get a Chinese medical doctor. So you might get put to sleep for anesthetic and surgery by getting an acupuncture needle instead of getting drugs. So there's an awful lot of alternative viewpoints out there. So let's explore a little further. So I keep talking about how body talk is consciousness-based medicine. Let's explore that word. What does that really mean? So consciousness, simply put, is all there is. I realize it's not a very helpful definition. So consciousness is at the root of everything that's physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. At the root of it all is consciousness. So when you go to the very root of something, if you're gardening and you want to get to the root of something, you dig a little deeper. Consciousness would be at that root. So we have lots of people in society that treat the physical body. What do we call them? Doctors, yeah. Naturopaths treat a little on the physical side, would you say? Yeah, okay. What about mental? Who treats mental and emotional bodies? Psychologists? Pardon? Psychotherapists? Yeah. Okay. What about counselors? Yeah. So lots of people treat the mental, the emotional body. Those are a couple. What about the spiritual body? Who treats the spiritual body? Priests, pastors, shamans, medicine men. We've got lots of people who treat every one of these things. Who treats consciousness? Exactly. Body talkers treat consciousness. Okay? So we are in the understanding that you cannot actually touch one of those areas without affecting all of them. So our approach is very much dynamic systems theory based rather than that, engine kind of model. Like take away the parts and you figure out how the whole thing works. We say if you touch one little piece of that puzzle, it's going to ripple and ricochet throughout the entire system. Everything is so entangled or integrated and intertwined that you can't help but impact the whole entire system. Yeah, does that make sense from your personal experience in the world? Yeah. So even think about when you go to the doctor's office and you get your prescription and you get it filled and then you get the side effect sheets and it's just one little chemical, maybe it's one little hormone and the side effects, do they ever say, nope, nothing? This is fine, go ahead, it won't touch anything else, just that one chemical will be replaced? No, what does it say? Well, there's like a novel, right? You got to sort through 3 or 4 pages and go, here are all the other possibilities. Don't you love those commercials where it's like, well, I have restless leg syndrome. Well, all this will treat everything, but it will also carry some substantial side effects. By the way, there's a possible risk of death or whatever it is they have on that commercial. So, and have you ever noticed that those commercials spend a whole lot more time talking about the possible side effects than they do the actual treatments of the thing? Yeah. So all this adds up to say that the body is intertwined and intertangled in a way that we don't always give it credit. Yeah. So your physical, mental, emotional, spiritual body is much the same. So you cannot change one little thing. Think of how you feel if you're having an off day. You feel a little sad. Do you feel zippy and ready to go do that workout or take on your day? Does your body feel full of physical energy? No. Yeah. So we treat what's at the root of all those things collectively. You can also think of consciousness as a metaphor, as I like to think of it, as the psychology of the body. So think of all the little parts as little people with little personalities, and they all have their own little job to do. So the heart's got its job to do, and if we think of what the heart does, it pumps blood on a physical level. But what about on that metaphorical level, your heart connection? You know, we talk about coming from the heart. You know? So all the body parts have their own role to play. Earlier, I talked about the ovary, and I thought my doctor, well, I shouldn't say my doctor, my body talk practitioner was a total quack. Yeah. Turns out, guess what the ovary does? It provides willpower. It provides the will to survive. So that seems relatively important when you're going through a pretty tough disease process. Yeah. Yeah, so it made a whole lot more sense to me what was coming up in my sessions when I got a little bit of understanding from that regard. So this is how we view consciousness in many different ways throughout the body-mind. Hi everyone, I'm back after our third video. So we had one that was a little bit longer with my body talk story on it. And then we went into the missing piece of healthcare, really short little guy, and another fairly short one too on what is body talk. And we're going to be breaking down a lot of the meat and potatoes and what are the underlying principles and philosophies are within all of that more tomorrow. So if you're intrigued and you'd like to learn a little bit more, then I invite you to check back on your Facebook event page for even more coming soon. And on the very last day, I'm so ultra excited to share with you some brand new announcements. I know a lot of you are aware that I have been on sabbatical for the last 9 months, and you may have seen a little bit of what it is I've been up to for other projects, but you haven't seen it all just yet. So those are still coming down the pipes. So it's ended sabbatical on June 1st officially for me. So I have a little bit more time still between now and then to get it all out to you. And know that I'm also really happy to be coming into this time frame and diving into teaching body talk classes again. So we have classes set up again on the schedule, and you can check out the class schedule worldwide at bodytalksystem.com. And my personal schedule is on there along with all the other instructors in the world. Also, you can find my schedule on vibranttransformation.com. Just click on the events, and there is classes up for June and July so far. On the last day, this is the one totally not to miss at all, because I'm going to be doing a group body talk session, and you guys get to receive body talk. So who likes free body talk? I like free body talk. So if you are at all intrigued to learn a little bit more, please join us when and if you are able to on any of the upcoming videos on day 2 or on day 3. So Thursday, May 23rd is day 2 with all the info, and then day 3 is on Friday, May 24th. And we'll be diving into all of that yummy, awesome, juicy demonstrations of it. You'll get to learn how to do a technique on yourselves, as well as, like I mentioned, that group session is coming. Plus, it's so another day to miss because I get to drop that juicy announcement on that last day. So for sure, make sure you can get to us on Friday or watch the replay. And I really look forward to getting to share that all with you. Yeah. All right, my loves, I am going to sign off for now. Know that I will happily address any questions you send in tomorrow or the next day or anytime thereafter or privately if that's what you prefer. Okay. All right, my loves, I thank you so very much for joining together in this way. I'm not seeing any questions in the chat feature right now, so I'm going to sign off for today. Okay, bye, loves. Bye for now.